Trump confirmed the crypto strategic reserve that we've been discussing a little bit. He highlighted that it's going to be comprised of XRP, SOL, and ADA.
I do think once the US gets things up and running, it's just another product that they can export as a company. I think they're going to look at maybe their reserve and, the broader sort of impact that'll have on the crypto economy within the US. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of Tapping Into Crypto with myself, Pav, and the lovely Ted.
Hey Pav, how you going? I love the enthusiasm there, mate.
It was good, right?
Yeah, it could be better, but mate, what a couple of days. Yesterday we had probably one of the biggest pieces of news in the last, this year at least, and then today we've come back down again. So do you want to give us a bit of a recap of what's happened?
We're talking about the cyclone, right?
Yeah, the cyclone that's about to hit us.
So there's a cyclone about to hit Brisbane, the first one in 35 years.
Yeah.
No, it's so sorry. Couldn't help it. Daniel's loving it. Producer Daniel giggling away.
Pav's a bit of a comedian.
Should get him mic'd up and get those giggles coming through for everyone.
Yeah, we do.
It's very cute.
And live audience.
Yeah. Look, we've had a lot happening. Where do you start?
For context, this episode will come out on Thursday, but we're recording Tuesday. And yesterday we woke up to the news that Trump tweeted or put on his social media, Truth Social.
What's it called? Truth Social?
Yeah. I think he's the only one using it. He posted that he is going to, he confirmed the crypto strategic reserve that we've been discussing a little bit, and he highlighted that it's going to be comprised of XRP, SOL, and ADA, so Cardano.
That was what he said in the first post, right?
Yes, and then he backed it up with, by the way, it's going to be inclusive of Bitcoin and ETH.
Yep.
So interesting the way he did that.
I know your take on that is a bit more conspiracy theorist.
A little bit of manipulation going on there potentially, just to pump those three coins, and then clarify. We've got BTC and ETH included as well. So, Look, bit of a conspiracy theory, but.
We'll have some overwhelming moves because I think there were some short-term rises of, ADA skyrocketing 60%, which I think I saw was the most it's moved since 2021.
Yep.
XRP surging 30% and Solana 20% circa. So it kind of did run a little bit more than that, but just shortly after the announcement, there were some pretty big moves. I thought it was a bit weird for it to be on a Sunday. Especially with his son, Eric Trump, coming out saying this one's for the retail players.
Well, this one's for the crypto market because, as we know, that the traditional finance markets don't open till Monday, 9 to 5 kind of thing. So he was like, the fact that we can do this and send the markets flying is, I guess, a little bit of a revolution. And
the one thing we know about the Trumps is they love to support the retail market, right? So yeah, they're definitely in it for everyone.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, it's come back down today, and pretty much those coins we discussed, so ADA, XRP, SOL, they're all down 20%. So they haven't
back to where it left.
Yeah. But we kind of want to unpack what it all means, what are the implications of it, short-term implications, long-term implications, what actually has to happen for this to be finalized. And then, we'll also touch on some key market news. I know you got some stuff about meme coins, and then we've got a huge event coming later this week, and so we've got to discuss that.
Yep, absolutely.
But listen, first let's touch on the context of this Trump tweet or Truth Social post. So essentially he's kind of tossed and turned between the terms stockpile and strategic reserve, and we've kind of used those terms interchangeably, but I didn't actually know this, but there actually is a key difference between those. So stockpile is usually considered it's more referred to as assets that have been seized by the government. Typically they'd sell them off, but in this case they're just going to hold them as sort of a strategic asset, but they're not going to acquire any. And then a strategic reserve would focus on actually acquiring more of those assets, so that you'd think, the ones that he mentioned in the post yesterday would be he's going to buy more Bitcoin, ETH, XRP, ADA, and SOL, right? So very key difference. Obviously, the US is one of the biggest holders of crypto because they've seized so many assets from the likes of Silk Road and other, criminal organizations. And so, I think from what I can see, it's actually easier to get a stockpile passed by Congress than a strategic reserve, obviously, because they have to spend money to acquire some of these crypto assets, and they don't really know how they're going to do that yet, right? We've discussed before how they could revalue their gold assets, or the money that Elon Musk is saving through the Doge thing he's got going on could be used to buy some of these crypto assets, but they haven't really mapped that out yet, and it's still yet to be seen. So, yeah, that's it's a bit...
Well, the stockpile one makes more sense, right?
Yeah, the stockpile probably easy to get through and probably more realistic at this stage. But for us, I think we want to see sort of the US buying crypto, right? Because it just increases that demand for it, which is good for price.
And that's the misprice. Like you could say that everyone's expecting them to jump in and buy now. So there's any twinge or noise of them not actually purchasing. They're just moving it from one place to another. It's not going to be bad for prices because everyone's expecting a lot more.
Yeah.
Pretty scary to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. But like do we know any other details around this whole...
No, there's more question marks, right? Like you've already mentioned, like the funding mechanism, like how they're going to fund this purchasing, exact allocations. Like obviously we want to know about what's the portfolio breakdown going to be or the acquisition plan. Like are they going to have a certain weighting? Like that's pretty normal. If you had some sort of weighted index fund, like you might want to keep X% of Bitcoin, X% of Ethereum, whatever. And then it's always just a balancing act to keep those proportions even. That's pretty standard. Timelines, like I think we already touched on it. There's nothing really there. It's just sort of posts and hope, really, hoping the knowing. And then expansion. So, even we're talking about the potential inclusion of these assets, like what does future inclusion criteria look like as well? Will there be sort of this, again, are they trying to, as a country, attract more players to come to the US to build and innovate, so then more could potentially end up on this reserve in the future. It's a bit ambitious, but how long term are they thinking about this game? I think is another piece as well. And obviously just other things too, like where are they going to custody it? Obviously that might have positive impacts to certain players in the space. Coinbase namely has already been associated with quite a few of the ETFs, etc. And then I think another bigger piece of the puzzle is once all this governance and everything's in place and there's a plan and there's it's all signed off, copycat action across other countries, right? Yeah. So I know we're going to touch on that sort of stuff in a bit.
Yeah, well, no, that leads into our sort of next segment is like there's a lot of rumors, and I want to preface that where they are rumors and not verified, but, this is in the Twitter sphere we're talking about, that China are going to follow suit with their own crypto or Bitcoin strategic reserve. Now, there's been a lot of talk around, China versus the US in sort of like a tech cold war. We've seen it with the likes of AI, which we discussed a few weeks ago. We've seen it for a few years with, electric vehicles. The US has Tesla, China has BYD, which is getting huge. And like, could we see it with crypto? China's been notorious for banning crypto, but like they may see this as, we have to compete with the US if we're going to actually compete on a global level. An interesting thing is like the Chinese news networks actually covered this news of like Trump announcing that he wants to build a strategic Bitcoin reserve or crypto reserve and wants to be a global crypto hub, right? And from my understanding, these networks in China are owned or controlled by the state, right? And so for them to actually cover this means like that's been approved and they want to sort of educate the public on these sorts of things, right? Because you need public support in order to move forward with a lot of these things, right? So I don't know. That's just my take, but I think we could see that progress somewhere. But who knows?
Yeah, it's a good shout.
I know you've got some thoughts on China versus US. Do you want to enlighten us with what you said before the show?
Not really. I just don't think there is anything going on.
I think you compared it to WWE, or
we're not going to touch that. But I do think 100%. All right, once again, Daniel's giggling away at the corner. I do think once the US gets things up and running, it's just another product that they can export as a company. I think they're going to look at maybe their reserve and the broader sort of impact that will have on the crypto economy within the US and the private sector specifically, all the different problems they'll look to solve for global entities. I don't know, this is sounding very just like airy-fairy, but I feel like the ramifications or what a reserve that like this will kick off, be it Bitcoin or altcoins as well, it'll have, I think, a positive impact to the US trying to be the center of crypto in the world, if that's what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, what I could say I'm looking forward to. And then all the other countries trying to follow suit. It's just going to be a bit of an interesting spin.
Yeah. So, I don't know, potentially one to look at is the Chinese coins, right? If this whole scenario plays out, like what are the big Chinese coins? You got Neo, Filecoin, Conflux, VeChain.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, the US is pretty dominant when it comes to some of those bigger projects, like we mentioned before, XRP, Solana, Cardano. And I think that's probably because China has, got some pretty strict regulations around crypto. But, we might see, like, those coins being favored.
Yeah.
China supports the whole crypto
I think what
notion.
we might see out of this as well is what we talked about, I think, maybe a couple episodes ago. Like, we're past the point of, I feel, crypto needing infrastructure. Like, that's all that's ever been, infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now there's kind of like almost like an arms race between countries, the same way there is in the stock market to produce like tech goods. This is just another sector of tech goods, essentially. There'll actually be an application race, maybe. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Where there's actually each country's trying to build new applications to attract revenue and grow their economy, right? It's just another way to form GDP. And AI is probably in the same space too, like each country trying to work out how does AI fit into their broader strategy. But let's look at RWAs. I think that's probably the closest thing we're going to see to something being, weaponized in terms of creating revenue for a country. Stable coins going through real world assets. Like we know Ondo Finance, we talked about that to death. Tokenizing bonds and even corporate bonds. Imagine every country doing that all of a sudden. Then you've got like an actual protocol doing something, settling transactions everywhere. Payments is another space I think we've talked about because everyone's labeled stablecoins as something that we know what it is. This is how we're going to handle it. That's as clear as legislation's gotten so far, particularly in Europe, and now the US is likely going to follow. Yep. So I think that's the exciting space for me.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you mentioned it there that some of the narratives that are going to favor the best on the back of this, politicalization of crypto are probably RWAs, AI, stablecoins. You mentioned it. So just to sort of tie off that segment, if the US is Hulk Hogan, what does that make China?
Oh my God.
I need an answer.
It's going too far back. I think it's... let's not do this.
Randy Orton?
Well, The Rock and Steve Austin, weren't they like against each other and they fought together for a bit? I reckon it's a bit like that.
Okay, nice. There you go. You don't get these sort of insights anywhere else.
SummerSlam up in here.
Yeah. Moving on. What do we got next? So I think this leads on nicely into the crypto summit that's happening this week at the White House. So I think this episode will come out Thursday.
Yeah. What are a couple of weeks? Let's just stop and just take stock. Hey, there's more to come.
Take a few deep breaths.
Yeah.
So, this is a huge week. So, the crypto summit is happening on Friday, but if you're in Australia, that will be around Saturday. So, make sure to, keep on top of that. Probably Twitter's your best place to go to.
Yep.
But yeah, so what's happening is the White House will host a crypto summit with, some of the industry leaders, CEOs. You'll probably see Brian Armstrong from Coinbase there and some of the big dogs from some of the big US crypto players there. It'll be hosted by David Sachs, who's like the crypto and AI czar. Yeah, we love that word. But we don't know yet if Trump is going to speak. So the fact that they're even hosting this at the White House and, it's a big event. Yeah. It's not just a government meeting. It's actually inviting industry leaders in is huge. But we don't really know what's coming out from this. But given what we've seen so far and given, Trump's sort of approach to these things, you can probably guarantee that A, he will speak, and B, he's going to make a big announcement or say something outlandish.
Well, what's the one thing he's done every time recently? He's just thrown an anger way out, right? Like he just says something so extreme and everyone reacts to the extreme, and then the truth is usually somewhere in the middle of like where he throws it. So be interesting. I think it's 100% going to come down to sentiment.
Yeah.
Well, as to what happens, sorry.
So what I'm seeing is like the key things at stake are a new stablecoin framework, setting the stage for onshore USD dominance. A Bitcoin stockpile, which we discussed before, or potentially strategic reserve. Maybe more clarity around that. And then a policy reset. So where compliance moves from punishment to participation. So what that is referring to is, we under the Biden administration, we saw very strict regulation around crypto, particularly with the SEC. Where's that going to move to under the Trump administration? So if we can find those three things out, that would be massive. But who knows? Anything could happen when it's involving Trump, right?
Gives us something great to unpack next week. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. What's your prediction?
Again, I just think the market's going to price in super good news, and then if nothing is said that gives any clarity, we might see just another massive sell-off again, or just people going, oh, not again. Like
that's what's interesting about like the dump we saw this morning is, it's only 3 days away until we have that summit. Like, why are people selling off so quickly?
It's a good question.
When we could have a major announcement this week. So yeah, it could be a buy the room, sell the news type event we see in the lead up to that. But we're already pretty close. So
Yep. But I'm waiting on the sidelines personally. So just wait for the dust to settle. Keep on keeping on with the
how
DCL.
responsible of you, Pav.
I know, I'm trying to be. I'm a better man.
You're being a good man.
Trying to be a better man.
Yeah.
Speaking of being a better man, let's talk meme coins. Let's do it. So the SEC last week, again, just with I guess all the news and movements we have seen in the market, some certain news has gone through to the keeper. I know we were talking about that yesterday as well. So the SEC has provided clarification that meme coins, surprise, surprise, not a security, they're a collectible. But it's a big piece in the sense that they finally put it to bed. It's official now. And what we've seen off the back of that is, we were speaking in the office even we might see more meme coin ETFs now come into the fray. And overnight we've seen Bitwise launch, or file, I should say, a Dogecoin ETF. So there's already numerous meme coin ETFs that have been filed. I think notable mentions so far have been, again, Doge, Bonk, and Trump coin.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the list will end there if we're talking about between now and a couple of years from now where this all goes. But the guidance that this is how they're going to treat meme coins, I think is a big step just for speculators out there. But one thing that we could say we've seen from meme coins is how do you measure true value, right? We've seen that whole industry or category, I should say, completely implode to some degree. Pumped Up Fund did some pretty interesting things for people's attention spans when it comes to meme coins recently.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, we spoke about that pump that we did see on Sunday after the Trump announcement. The leading category for most of the time was actually meme coins as well. I was looking at things as well. So while we did see a lot of those coins that got mentioned move to the upside quite quickly, I was actually quite surprised to see meme coins again performing quite well in market, even though everyone's kind of lost a bit of their appetite for them. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
I think it's only a matter of time before we see a lot of those ETF filings, not just Doge. But yeah, what's the latest on? Because I know the people are saying that Litecoin ETF is meant to be approved next.
I think we need to sit down in the next episode. Maybe we go through what's the updates on those guys.
Yeah, because I think it was tweeted by what's his name, Eric Balchunas from Bloomberg. He said he predicts Litecoin, then Solana, then XRP to be approved in that sort of order.
Yeah, because I think he said Litecoin represents the closest thing to Bitcoin, which has already been approved. Yeah. But I mean, what we're talking about here is they've already definitively said meme coins are this. They are not a security. So therefore, they might get fast-tracked.
True.
That's kind of my angle.
But these applications take time. They can take
months. Under the new regime, maybe they don't. Maybe that's what the meeting this weekend's about,
Yeah, Trump just comes out. Meme ETFs for everyone.
Well, what would he want? He'd want his own meme coin to be an ETF. Right?
The thing is, Trump was, flipped on his stance on crypto, right? He always said, I just want I'm just a fan of USD and that's all I want.
Yep.
Now, obviously, he's come out and supported crypto, and what does he want? Because he has a pound of flesh in crypto through his own crypto token, right? So what does he want from this, and how does he pump that? Because that created more wealth than he's ever had overnight, essentially. So I don't know what is going to benefit him. Probably just more favorable regulation, right?
Oh, it'll favor the industry for sure as well. But yeah, you got to think what's the true agenda a little bit. It's a bit of a mixed agenda, I feel.
Yeah, I really hope it doesn't include Trump in the strategic reserve.
Oh man,
surely he has some. Yeah.
I think there's already quite a few people asking for people to investigate him, for the whole Sunday post as well, because there was quite a few posts going around from on-chain watchers of massive positions being put onto Bitcoin and Ethereum just prior to the announcement. So it's almost someone must have known to have chucked on, I think it was 200 mil in longs.
Really?
Yeah, and crazy. So very timely to be putting positions on before that announcement.
Market manipulation at its finest, eh? Maybe.
Or just a free market.
We're just speculating.
Well,
that's pretty much it for this week, Pav. We went through it pretty quickly.
Nice tie to the left.
Yeah, so we might leave it there and give you guys an update next week. Hopefully some big news coming out of the summit at the end of this week.
There could be some juicy things to go through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.